Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. I'm going to be talking again about fetal experimentation, but this is also an experiment of will YouTube nuke this? I had done a lengthy video where I discussed a lot of fetal experiments that were discussed in the congressional record. YouTube nuked the video, labeling it misinformation, but they wouldn't tell me what there was in the video that supposedly was misinformation. So I'm breaking it down and I'm discussing each study one at a time, bit by bit, so that whichever one, YouTube, is this one the misinformation? You tell me. I'd love to know. Okay? So, a lot of this was summed up in a journal article, Ethical Issues in Experimentation on the Human Fetus by LeRoy Walters, published in the Journal of Religious Ethics in spring of 1974. I can't share this visually with you. I just have permission to read them online, but if you go to jstor.org, you can subscribe for free and you're allowed to read 100 articles a month. So I will provide the title of the article below so that you can go read it yourself. And Mr. Walters divides up types of fetal experimentation into three kinds. One is the baby's been slated for abortion, so they do something to it in utero so that after the abortion they can then examine it. Type 2 is it takes place during the abortion procedure, but while the fetus is still alive. And type 3 is the umbilical cord has been cut and they're still experimenting on the fetus. So in the previous video, I gave an example of a type 1. This is going to be a type 2. It's in a study entitled Human Placental Barrier to L-Glucagon, no, I think it's I-Glucagon. Human Placental Barrier to I-Glucagon in Early Gestation by Adam et al., 1972. The report of this experiment is quoted. 10 normal pregnant women receiving legal abortions were chosen for study. In each case, the gestational age of the fetus was estimated to be 15 to 17 weeks. Informed consent was obtained from each of the women. Several hours before the abortion procedure, 9 of the women received intravenous infusions of I-glucagon. Samples of maternal venous blood were taken every 10 or 15 minutes. At the time of the abortion by hysterotomy is, it's a C-section, but you want the baby dead. Okay, in abortion, presumably dead from prematurity. At the time of abortion by hysterotomy, the fetus was exteriorized. That's an interesting way of saying removed from the mother's body. It was exteriorized. And blood samples were obtained immediately from the umbilical artery and umbilical vein while the fetus and mother were still attached and while the placenta remained intact in the uterus. Okay? So they're taking the baby out. They're intending to let it die of prematurity, but before they do that, they're taking some blood samples. The remaining women were not infused with I-glucagon. So the fetus was exteriorized with the placenta in situ, meaning left where it was, and no interruption of the umbilical circulation. So the blood's still going back and forth from the placenta to the baby. The cord's not cut. The blood flow, the right fetal carotid artery, the principal artery in the neck, was exposed. So this baby's still alive and they cut its neck open so they can get at this artery. The blood flow in this artery was interrupted by ligation, meaning that they clamped it, they tied it off. And a plastic catheter was introduced into the artery for retrograde infusion of L-glucagon directly into the fetus. So they pump the glucagon into the fetus through the artery. Serial samples were obtained from the fetal umbilical vein 1, 5, and 10 minutes after the time of injection. So they've got the mother cut open on the operating table. They've cut her open for this abortion. They've taken the fetus out. It's the umbilical cord still connected. They're putting the glucagon into the fetus, the baby, And they're keeping the mother open on the operating table for 10 minutes while they can take samples of blood. And then they did comparison between the two groups. So, YouTube, is it okay for me to describe this experiment, or is this misinformation describing this experiment? What do you think, viewers? Is YouTube going to nuke this video for misinformation, or are they going to let me say that this was described in this journal article that you can go on JSTOR and read for yourself? We'll see.